Well, I'm here with Katie Lamb, who, along with a group of other MPs, has written to the Church of England to complain about its decision to give £100 million of its endowment to slavery reparations. Katie, tell me about this. What legal right does the Church of England have to give away its endowment?
Absolutely none. So the whole premise is completely ludicrous. The Church of England, which already has a job, its job is to support Anglicanism up and down the country, to support parish churches and congregations, is instead spending its time virtue signalling around something that is historically inaccurate, morally wrong, and illegal.
So England did make a lot of money from slavery in the 18th century. Is there a degree to which you think it's right that people who've benefited from something that is historically wrong should pay back later?
There are so many different elements to this, but I think the fundamental one is that human history is complicated. It's an intricate tapestry, and you can't unpick a single thread. There is no question that slavery is and was an abhorrent practice that this country, like almost every country and culture in the world, participated in. But the unique relationship that England and that Britain has with slavery is in ending it. We were only the second country in the world to outlaw it after the Danes, more than 200 years ago. We spent a huge amount of money, of political capital, the lives of Navy sailors trying to end slavery around the world. Everybody that we're talking about, everybody who perpetrated these crimes and everybody who was a victim of them is long dead. And to try now to address that does nothing but rake all of this up again. You know, the only way, certainly, that the church is differentiating between people that it considers to have benefited from slavery and people that it considers to have been victims of slavery is race. It's inherently divisive, and I think it's wrong.
And is there really the evidence that the Church of England actually benefited from slavery? It had investments via Queen Anne's bounty in the South Sea Company. Now, the South Sea Company is known to most people through the South Sea bubble, where Walpole made a lot of money and Isaac Newton lost a lot of money. Did the Church of England genuinely make money from slavery through the South Sea bubble?
No. So this question and what's behind it is illustrative of the whole approach that the church has taken. So in 2019, they commissioned a group of academics, explicitly a group of anti-colonialist, sort of critical race theory academics, to assess whether or not the church profited from slavery. The report was not peer-reviewed. It was not challenged or questioned in any way. And unsurprisingly, the key conclusion, which is that the church made a lot of money from slavery through the South Sea Company, was wrong. Actually, the main profit that the church made from its investments, from its related investments over that period, was from South Sea annuities, which were basically gilts. They were just government bonds. They were not, certainly in no direct way could you make an argument that they were related to slavery. The church did make a small investment in South Sea Company shares, and those were slave trade derivative, but the investment was small, it was brief, and it was loss-making. So the opposite is true. The church, rather than respond to this with humility and say, oh, well, we got this wrong, that's not actually true, either say, oh, well, it doesn't matter, that's not the moral case that we're making, or they say, well, the fund did benefit from people who likely profited from slavery, which is so generic that it's worthless. I mean, there is almost no institution that might have had any philanthropic donation that existed before about 1830 to whom that wouldn't apply.
And is this popular with the congregation of the Church of England? Are there all these people going into parish churches who can't afford their heating and find that the roof is leaking and the lead's been stolen? Are they all saying, yes, let's give £100 million to slave reparations to people we know nothing about and who are all dead?
It is deeply unpopular. We've looked into this. There's a group of us parliamentarians who are trying to shed a bit of light on this issue and this problem. And 80% of Anglicans think that the church should basically be minding its own business, which is running the Anglican Church. There are 16,000 Anglican churches. 3,500 churches and cathedrals are at risk of falling into disrepair. 1,000 are at risk of falling into disrepair. 3,500 have already closed their doors in the last decade. And what ordinary, everyday Anglicans told us was that is what the church should be focusing on, and they're right.
And so, if I get my maths right, £100 million and 1,000 churches, you could give £10,000 to every church to help it with that's in disrepair with its building works.
Yes, and crucially, legally, that is actually the only thing you can spend this money on.
And that's very important because this money comes from Queen Anne's Bounty, which was a fund set up to look after impoverished churchmen in the beginning.
Clergy, yes.
Clergy. And what is its legal status now? Who are the trustees and what are its legal objectives?
One of the many reasons that this is so ludicrous is because the church leadership are merrily throwing around the £100 million that does not belong to them. This, exactly as you say, is money that is in a charity.
I've taken a note off, it's £100,000, isn't it? It's
yes.
1,000, yeah, it's 100,000. I'm sorry, I'm so stupid. I've taken...
No, not at all. So
it's
1,000 times yes.
Yes. It's a huge amount of money for falling down churches. Sorry,
back. And of course for their clergy. So many churches, if I think about my constituency, which is quite rural, are sharing clergy. They have to have services, at 7:30 in the morning, or their service is not until 11, or because there's one vicar who's trying to get around 6 different places. The money exists to pay these people, to allow them to do their job of building their congregations, and instead completely outwith the law. The church leadership here specifically, it's the church commissioners who are the trustees, amongst others, of the charity that we're talking about. They are deciding instead to spend that charity's money on something which is not in its charitable objectives. Now, you cannot legally do that. So the rules are you have to spend whatever money you donate to a charity on the cause of that charity. If I give money to a donkey sanctuary, you've got to spend it on donkey sanctuaries, even if there are other causes that are very worthwhile, which of course there are. What the church is now trying to do is to set up an entirely separate additional charity and give it £100 million of the endowment from the original charity. Now, if you could do that, there would be no point in having these rules in the first place.
So how is this being stopped? The Church Commissioners are an interesting group. I was, for a brief period, one of the Church Commissioners, ex officio.
I didn't know that.
As Lord President of the Council. As a Catholic, I didn't get involved. I thought it wasn't proper. But the Prime Minister is one of the Church Commissioners, the Lord President, I think the Speaker of the House of Commons. There is an ultimate political control of the Church of England as it's an established church. Are you getting any response from politicians about this?
And there also are Church Commissioner questions in Parliament. There is a Church Commissioner representative in Parliament whom we can question. But I would say thus far, it feels effectively like we have hit a bit of a brick wall. So all of the questions that we have asked, the response is, oh, well, we're looking into it, or this is a matter for the church commissioners, or sort of other various civil service wordings that say this is none of your business, which of course it is. The church, even if you don't have a faith, the Church of England is a national institution, and where it leads, others either may choose or feel pressured to follow. What they are saying about themselves would apply to the monarchy, to every historic house, to every Oxbridge college. I mean, there are so many institutions in our ancient country that could say about themselves they may have profited from somebody who might have been involved in the slave trade. And we have, so there's, as I say, there's a group of parliamentarians. We have asked various questions of the church commissioners. We have written to Sarah Mullally, who's the incoming Archbishop of Canterbury, to say, look, this was a Justin Welby era project. This is a fantastic opportunity just to sweep this away and say we're not going to do this anymore. And we've also written to the Charity Commission, because the next technical step for the church is to apply for this new charity. This is totally unprecedented. Nobody's ever done this before. They want to do it through something called an ex gratia payment. The largest that we can ever find in history was about £200,000. So this is obviously
different order of magnitude.
500 times as much money.
And in these terms, can you go to court ultimately if the Charity Commissioner doesn't help, or if the Charity Commission feels it doesn't have the power? Can you go to the court to say this is ultra vires?
We are slightly in uncharted waters because the church commissioners have not made the application yet. When they make the application, it might be rejected. So we wrote to the Charity Commission and said, we very strongly believe that you should reject this. This is a circumvention of the rules, and if every charity can do this, then there's no point in having any rules. So they may well reject it. If they don't reject it, it's not totally clear what happens next.
All right, what would Parliament do if the Synod voted to do it? Because in recent years, Parliament has just accepted on the nod legislation that's come from the General Synod. Do you think Parliament would at that stage say, well, no, actually, we're not going to rubber stamp this piece of Church of England legislation? Is this going to be potentially a row over the whole establishment of the Church of England?
Well, my view would be that Parliament would have to refuse to rubber stamp it because of the precedent risk. As I was saying, if this were just a sort of wealthy philanthropist making foolish decisions about their own money, then it would be sanctimonious and annoying, but it wouldn't really be any of anybody else's business. But if the church is going to say that this is how institutions have to behave, if Parliament is going to ratify that, that has very serious implications. And
it potentially has implications for the taxpayer, because ultimately, if a great cathedral is about to fall down, the taxpayer, the National Lottery, would come to the rescue. So this isn't just free money, it is money that essentially belongs to the nation.
And there is a live discussion at the moment. We, the Conservative Party, are campaigning on this to keep the listed places of worship grant, which is a slight misnomer. It's actually a tax break rather than a grant. But if you, at least in the past, in the last government, if you made repairs to a church, those were not subject to VAT. Now, if actually what's happening with that money that they're not paying for VAT is going into a slavery reparation fund, that's a very different conversation. That's not fair.
Also, as a final thought, if the Church of England wishes to give away its ill-gotten gains, can we have the monastic lands back, please?
Well, this is essentially inevitably where the conversation ends up. It is just impossible to do this, and it's not desirable. It's divisive and it's backward-looking, and it's not the way that the country works.
And the basic principle is just fundamentally wrong. You cannot put right things that have been wrong historically. No. And the Church of England surely should be boasting about the fact that it ended slavery, that all the leading anti-slavers were Christian, and a lot of them, including Wilberforce, were active members of the Church of England.
Absolutely, and that should be part of, if it wants to. So I think what is underneath all of this, other than their desire to sort of look virtuous, is a desire to appeal to all sorts of different people, and particularly to appeal to black people and a potential black congregation. But surely a much better, more positive way of doing that is to talk about the fantastic history that the church can be very proud of in ending slavery, not instead focusing on all of its harms in a way that's divisive.
Also, people come to the Christian church because they believe in the resurrection, not because you've given £2.50 to the great-great-great-grandson of somebody who was once a slave.
We hope so.
We hope so. Katie, thank you very much for
My pleasure.
joining me. Thank you.